Up next, we have a trail success story about the Lake to Sound Trail. And David Shaw, the Capital Project Manager for King County Parks, is going to share a bit with us.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm really excited to be able to come talk to you today about, I was really excited to get the invitation to share a success story about the Lake to Sound Trail. It's a really cool project by King County, and over the past several years I've had the great pleasure and the great honor to be able to work on two segments of the Lake to Sound Trail and making them happen. Today I'm really excited to be able to talk to you about one of them, which is called Segment C, that I'll dive into. A little bit more about myself, though. Again, my name is David Shaw. I'm a capital project manager with King County. I've been with the county for about 7 years, and I'm on a team of project managers who all focus on regional trails in King County. So one thing I've noticed is we've been talking a lot about, these great, beautiful backcountry trails, dirt surfaces, out in the trees, out in nature. I'm going to ask you all to come with me back into the urban built environment for a little while, and we're going to talk about big, wide, paved regional trails. So those are the kind of projects that I work on, and it's been really cool to be able to focus on this project in particular. So let me roll on over here. Oh yeah, so for today, what I'll focus on is talk to you a little bit about multi-governmental coordination, which, on the surface of it sounds kind of like, all right, now get ready to glaze your eyes over. It's actually pretty cool. So we'll talk about that for a little bit, and then I want to dive into a few unique features that show up in this segment C of the Lake to Sound Trail, namely development through sensitive areas, which is, sensitive, and new trails on old roads, which was a really unique opportunity we had on this particular project. So let's go ahead and see which button I push to move along. All right, so let's start right here, looking at a county-wide picture of our existing regional trails. So again, these are wide trails. Typically our regional trails are 12 feet of pavement, and then there's shoulders on the side of that, clear space on the side of that. So we're talking 18-foot wide footprint cross-section for these trails. For their big facilities, they're essentially mini roads that are made for pedestrians and cyclists and wheels of all shapes and sizes. The blue lines that you see on this map here are many of the existing trails that we have in King County. The Lake to Sound Trail is over on the west side there that you're seeing that little blue box pointing to the Lake to Sound Trail. That's a couple of segments of the Lake to Sound Trail that exist today. Let's see, one of the things that's really cool about the Lake to Sound Trail is it actually connects 4 other regional trails together, building our network. So it connects to the Green River Trail, Interurban Trail, the Cedar River Trail, as well as the East Trail. Lake to Sound Trail also connects 5 different cities, north and south in the area. So you've got connection now between Renton, Tukwila, SeaTac, Burien, and Des Moines. Anybody from Des Moines? Is it Des Moines or Des Moines? Do you pronounce the? Thank you. Okay, once you pronounce the S. Des Moines. All right, let's see. Another thing that's interesting about the Lake to Sound Trail, or at least segment C of the Lake to Sound Trail, is it kind of represents the direction that the future of trail building, urban trail building in King County. So of the 300 plus miles of regional trail that we have in the county, a lot of that is built on old rail corridor. And rail corridors are obviously amazing for regional trails because they're long corridors that are already put together, and you can, once you've got things worked out with the railroad, you can develop trails on them. And other areas of the county, so a lot of those connections are already done. And so now when we're looking around the county of how to connect up other neighborhoods and other parts of the community, we need to start looking at weaving these trails through the built environment where you don't have long swath, long straight thin corridors to be able to pick up and convert into trail. So that's what this project represents, is how we were able to weave through the community and find this space to be able to build this trail. Here you're seeing a map of the full 16-mile vision of the Lake to Sound Trail. You can see here how it would connect from the south end of Lake Washington, weave its way through these different cities down to the Puget Sound, hence the name Lake to Sound Trail. So eventually this will be 16 miles of paved trail, so it's pretty cool. Segment C that you can see here in the lighter blue section that's highlighted runs through the cities of SeaTac and into Burien. Altogether, it's about 2.2 miles of trail. It was funded through a variety of sources, the main one being WashDOT. So this came from $13 million of WashDOT funding. That coupled with $2.2 million of King County Parks levy funding, and then $600,000 of an RCO grant that also went into the project. So shout out to the RCO folks that are here. That funding helped build this project, which was really exciting. So there's about 1.1 miles of this trail that's in the city of SeaTac proper. That was opened in 2023. And then we just celebrated the grand opening of the section in Burien, about a half mile long there in 2025. So if any of you were at that ribbon cutting event, that was pretty cool. When that occurred, closing this gap here that you can see, the light blue segment, opened up 7 contiguous miles of the Lake to Sound Trail through Des Moines, SeaTac, Burien, and on. So it was a really important project and a cool opportunity to close a gap in our system. I forgot to mention one thing. Quick shout out to Parametrics. So I'm looking at some of the Parametrics team here. Parametrics has been the lead engineer on the Lake to Sound Trail project. So kudos to them and their team for the amazing work that they've done while they've supported the project that we've been managing here at King County. Sorry, I didn't say that at the beginning. I was hoping to do it at the intro. All right, so here we go. We're going to dive into multi-governmental coordination. This map here is a really good way to kind of tell the story of how we were able to make this happen for this segment of Lake to Sound. And what you're looking at here is actually the WashDOT 509 completion project map. So it's a little weird because north is facing, I think you're looking, north is facing this way toward me. The purple and blue lines show the alignment of the 509 completion project, where it would start in Burien at its current terminus and then work its way through Des Moines and SeaTac and connect to I-5. So that's kind of where this story begins, is with WashDOT. So WashDOT, is working along, doing their EIS for the 509 project, going through all these communities. Obviously, it's going to come to SeaTac because it goes right through the heart of the city of SeaTac. During that process, the city of SeaTac says, you're impacting, a lot of land in the city of SeaTac. You're impacting some parkland, you're impacting some sensitive areas, so there's got to be mitigation for that. So part of the mitigation for the 509 project, the city of SeaTac had the foresight to see, hey, we've got this plan for this regional trail that's going to connect through here. How about you build the trail, design and build the trail for, as part of the 509 project, as part of the mitigation for the impacts that the 509 project would cause. So, all the agreements and time goes by, WashDOT agrees and says, great, okay, we'll build 509, we'll build the trail with it. We'll see you in 2029 when we're done. And at that stage, that's where King County, who also understands the vision and, is part of the whole planning process, says, hey, wait a second. We have the expertise, we have the capacity, we have the multi-jurisdictional capabilities. How about the county jumps in here, grabs this project, and we design and build it. That way we can get it done way before the WashDOT timeline. So that's what we did, and that's how the county got involved. and we stepped up and were able to do that. It was a pretty cool project. So just that bit right there, the coordination between WashDOT, SeaTac, and King County was pretty exciting to be able to make that all happen. So, you know, when all of us county people actually talk to each other and know what each other are doing, really cool things can actually happen. Another governmental thing that was really helpful with this particular project actually had to do with acquisition. So like I said, you know, this wasn't a rail corridor where the property was already lined out and we had one property owner to work with to be able to put this thing down in. It's going right through the middle of this built-out neighborhood. And so we're, you know, trying to figure out where to put this thing and how do you get it on the ground. So luckily, there was enough right-of-way. Well, let's see, I should back up. There was some acquisition needed for this project. There was a couple parcels, private property that needed to be acquired, but the vast majority of the project is actually on public right-of-way. So it's in road right-of-ways owned by City of Burien, City of SeaTac, and WashDOT. And that's probably, I don't know, 95% of the whole corridor is in right-of-way, with just a little bit of it that we needed to acquire from private properties. So that piece of coordination with all the governmental entities was critical to actually making it happen and bringing the vision together. All right, I think I'm done with government stuff. So now I'll go to the exciting bit. I want to focus on a couple of the unique features that we were able to do on this project. So developing trails through sensitive areas. So obviously sensitive areas are really important to the biodiversity of our region. You know, they're really important for clean, fresh water, habitat for all kinds of species. You know, they're sensitive. There's a lot going on there from a biological standpoint. So with our projects, we want to reduce and we want to avoid the impacts to them as much as possible. But where you have to impact a sensitive area, we want to reduce those impacts as much as possible. So a strategy that we were able to implement on segment C of Lake to Sound is to use elevated boardwalks. So these structures are really cool because they take the surface of the trail, obviously, and elevate it up above the landscape. That allows, you know, the plants and everything to grow underneath, for critters to pass through, and also allows for the natural hydrology of the site to remain intact. So they're more expensive to build, but they are way lower impact than traditional construction where you're building the trail right on the ground. So I want to show you a little bit about how we build these, because, you know, like I say, we've been talking about backcountry trails and the construction of those. Construction of the big urban trails is a little bit different. So this is what it looks like. Oh, here's just a quick jump back to the 509 map. The area that's circled up here is where the wetlands exist on the project and where we actually had to build boardwalks in the Lake to Sound Trail. There's 4 boardwalk structures in segment C, and I think it was about 827 linear feet of the project was all elevated boardwalks. So there was quite a bit of it on this project. All right, this is pre-construction, just as the contractor was moving in and starting to clear the site. This is one of the locations where a boardwalk was constructed. So you can see right off the bat, it's super wet. You couldn't really build anything on this as it is. So it's a great site for a boardwalk. One of the first steps in boardwalk construction is driving piles. So what you're looking at here, this blue piece of equipment is the pile driver, and this is essentially a giant hammer that's pounding these, I forget how big diameter, but like 10-inch diameter steel piles down 30 feet down into the ground. And they pound these things in until they don't move anymore, and that gives you a nice solid foundation to build the boardwalk structure on. And then the other photo you see here, what they do next is they come in and cut off the excess pile, cut them down to the right size, so now you've got the piles all set and ready to go. And so that shows you right where that boardwalk is going to be built. this image right here, what you're seeing are pile caps. So they form up these pile caps and pour them full of concrete. And then there's in the background, you can see this little panel being set down by a crane where they put down, that's the decking that's coming along for the boardwalk. And when you look at this, you can see with these pile caps all lined up, the boardwalks are essentially just a whole series of short little bridges all lined up so that you can create this trail corridor. All right, so here you're seeing the panel laying process. They get a crane in there and put these hollow core panels down. And this whole process moves surprisingly fast. It's really slow all the way up until here, getting the piles done and pouring the pile caps. But when they put the decking down, it goes really, really fast, and it's fun to watch. Then once you've got all the decking down, you come back in and the contractor pours what's called a topping slab, so that you don't have, you imagine those, in the last photo, all the gaps in the decking, you can't ride a bike on that. So you pour a topping slab over the top, get a nice, clean, smooth finish, and then come in and attach the handrails that you're seeing going on in this image here. And then, ta-da, you come and walk it with all the inspectors, and of course the inspectors tick all the boxes and say everything's perfect on the first walk, right? And then you've got a finished boardwalk. So yeah, we're really proud of how this one turned out, and if any of you find yourselves in SeaTac, go ahead. This is just south of the airport. Go ahead and, while you're on a layover or whatever, go check it out. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you was another really unique opportunity we had on this project, and it's building a new trail in an old roadway. So you're seeing here an image of the finished trail actually on an old road. This is in City of SeaTac right-of-way. So I'll show you how we got there, because it's a pretty, you might ask, how did we do this? It's a pretty unique opportunity. Okay, so in this image you're seeing this area where the roadbed reused before construction. Are you seeing my cursor on the screen there? I can't quite tell what's going on the screen. Maybe not. I'll just verbally describe it. So you're seeing Des Moines Memorial Drive going up in north and south on one side of the image there, and 200th along the south. And then there's this roadway that connects the two, makes curve around. It's 196th. Curves around to 18th and then connects to 200th. So that intersection there, Des Moines Memorial and 200th, is pretty busy. And this nice little road was a really popular cut through that people would use to not have to go through and wait at the light at 200th and Des Moines Memorial Drive. So that's the roadway that we actually used for the trail. So this image is from 2021. So when we jump to 2023, now you're starting to see the trail alignment show. I need to come over here so I can point at it. All right, here we go. So now we're seeing the trail alignment right through here. So it goes at this weird angle. You got 200, goes at this weird angle, hits 18th right here, goes through the old right-of-way, comes up here, and then, just sort of randomly right there, it takes off and goes north and reconnects to Des Moines Memorial Drive. So when we were building this, the alignment there didn't make a lot of sense. And even on the plans, we're like, what's going on? So now jump ahead to 2025, and the 509 project construction is happening, and all of a sudden it starts to make a lot more sense. So now you're seeing 509 right through here. 509 cuts off 18th right there with all this grade change. They've got ramps going on here, and so 18th gets cut off right there. 509 continues on up through here, hits 86th, and again buries that section of 86 or 196 right there, and then comes up to Des Moines Memorial Drive. Now you can see here's our trail, right along at the toe of the slope, and then we hit this roadway. So this segment here, 196 and 18, now doesn't connect to the rest of the road network. So what was the city going to do with it? They just have an abandoned piece of right-of-way sitting out in the middle of nowhere. So they're like, use that for the trail. So that's what we did. And built the trail right on top of the old roadbed here, and they come on down and connect up. So this kind of opportunity doesn't show itself very often. So it's pretty cool opportunity to reuse that old roadway. So it is still City of SeaTac right-of-way that the pathway is built in. So this map here shows you where that occurred, where 509 cuts off the roads and where we used that old roadway. And then here, you can see where the contractor had pulled out the old asphalt of the road, and they're prepping the base for the trail, getting ready to put the new trail down. This is one of the best pictures of any regional trail project ever. This is paving day. It's the most exciting day in any project. So you got this clean, new, perfectly smooth asphalt that's going down, getting ready for all the cyclists and pedestrians to come along. And then this is what the trail looks like today after the shoulders are installed and all the restoration plantings are established. So again, a really unique opportunity to be able to put a brand new trail in an old roadway. But yeah, it was a cool part of that project. So like I say, that was a 2.2 mile project total, and that's been open to the public for use for a little while now. So now I want to switch over to a little celebratory moment to share with you. This is a little video, so we're going to just do a switcheroo and cross our fingers that the video works. If it doesn't, then that's okay too. I could reenact the video. Mm-hmm. Here we go. This is from June of this year. Okay, that's it. All right, we'll just keep the music going. So that concludes my presentation, but intentionally left a little time for question and answer if anybody would like to hear more about the Lake to Sound Trail Project. Yes?
Can you give us a sense of the entire, sort of the timeline for the entire connection to be done?
Okay, so timeline for the whole 16-mile vision to be done? That's a really good question. Now I'm going to look around in the audience to see if anybody else might know the answer to that. Let's see, Max, do you know a little bit more about total project timeline?
Max Buchanan, I'm the Regional Trails Coordinator for King County Parks. We have, in the upcoming levy, we have some additional Lake to Sound planning, design, and construction work. So that's programmed for the next 6 years, starting next year. That's not going to finish the whole project. We're going to go probably into the following levy period, so maybe in 12 years, sometime in that time frame.
So yeah, the answer, I don't know if folks online didn't hear that, maybe 12 years, depending. One of the maps that I showed shows the existing pieces of Lake to Sound and then pieces that are in the planning and design phases. And there's still several segments, particularly through the city of Renton, that are still under planning and design, and some real challenges with acquisition and where exactly to put this thing through the built environment. Other questions? Yes?
This is maybe too big of a question, but I'm curious, as a parks provider, parks department, building in the public right-of-way and in other towns and jurisdictions, what does your maintenance agreement after construction look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. And no, that's not too big of a one because it's one we really need to think about. So the question is what kind of maintenance agreements, what sort of long-term agreements are there when we do this sort of thing? So this particular segment goes through the cities of SeaTac and Burien. The county, as we move through development and design of the project, established interagency agreements with both cities. And so in those agreements, we, we go through all of the detail of long-term operations and maintenance, sit down with the cities, work out who's going to do what. In this particular instance, both of the cities picked up long-term operations and maintenance of the finished facility. So King County says, we'll build it, we'll get it all ready to go. You guys have the opportunity to come in and inspect. You have the opportunity to approve plans, and make sure that what we're doing will meet your requirements. And then they take on long-term operations and maintenance afterwards. Sometimes the county will also provide operation and maintenance for the facilities that we build, but it just depends on the jurisdiction. Yes?
Through the areas where you got close to private property, did you have any significant pushback from residents about just like attacks to their property or misgivings about personal security kind of things? And if so, how did you mitigate those concerns?
Yeah, so the questions about acquisition and did we get pushback from private property owners when we would approach them asking to purchase parts of their corridor. The acquisition, if any of you have been through the process, is a really challenging process because you have a piece of property or a little bit of property or a lot of property that you need, and if you go to a private property owner and they say no, then you're just kind of done. So there was a little bit of acquisition that we needed on this particular project. There was one parcel in particular that we needed where we needed to buy, I think it was like 10 or 15 feet of the bottom portion of a property just to be able to scoot the trail through. That one, if the private property owner had said no, it would have basically been a deal killer for the project because there would have been a whole segment of the corridor that we would not have been able to have connected. So it was a really critical piece. We were moving forward with that during design of the project and making fairly good progress in the acquisition process. And then the pandemic hit, and the private property owner we were working with had to let go of a bunch of their staff. And so when we were calling them saying, hey, how's it going with our offer that we've given you? There was literally not a human left to talk to. So it was a pretty stressful time. It would put the acquisition process on pause for about a year. Luckily, they were able to recover, get back to the table, and we were able to complete that acquisition. But yeah, things like that can come up. There was another piece of acquisition in the Burien segment on this project where we had a fair amount of road right-of-way to be able to build the project in, but we couldn't get a full width trail built in the space that we had. So we wanted to acquire some property on the adjacent private property, just about, an extra 5 feet or so, a sliver along the edge of the property. Worked with that property owner. Again, pandemic hit, slowed the whole thing down for a year. That one, unfortunately, afterwards wasn't successful, so we were not able to acquire that piece of property permanently. So in that section, we did have to reduce the footprint of the trail, so we basically designed around them. So if you have this, we were lucky enough to have enough right-of-way to be able to do it, and the city was willing to let us push the trail up as close to the adjacent roadway as we possibly could. So working with the partners, we were able to make it happen, but the trail is a little bit narrower than we would like in that segment.
There's a question
Oh, online question?
We're out of time.
We are out of time. Sorry, online question. You can email me and maybe I'll answer your question.
Well, thank you so
Okay.
much, David.
Thank you.